Hello and welcome to the Netflix and Chill podcast, the podcast where two unqualified young men attempt to critique a randomly chosen film on Netflix. In an attempt to make this as simple as possible, we have devised a profoundly complex process of semi-randomising the results. Each week we'll draw out a rating and genre from a hat, then each man will select two films from a database that meet the criteria. These four films then go into a hat again, and we randomly select one to watch that week. And then chill. Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever episode of the Netflix and Chill podcast. I'm James.
I'm Dan.
So last week we picked a film and we picked Loreak, which is a 2014 Basque drama, which is rated 2 stars on Netflix. So let's just get straight into the review and our thoughts on that. So Dan, take it away.
Right, well, I don't know whether you noticed the opening crawl
I may have done.
credits, but this film was partly funded, I'm guessing, by the Spanish Department of Education, I think.
Was it?
I think I saw that.
Oh,
Which is...
I didn't clock that.
Which is... I thought was strange, because obviously it's in Basque. Obviously a lot of tension between the Basque and Catalan and sort of Madrid, Spain regions, you know, political history, which actually rears its head on the TV with the mention of the Civil War.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was
So I was intrigued to see that the Spanish Department of Education was funding a film in Basque.
Yeah. This was actually a bit of research that I did. The first Basque language film to ever be entered into. It was like the Spanish Film Festival, but it was the first one that was actually in Basque to be.
Oh, right.
So maybe that was, I don't know, something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Fact.
obviously, Loreak, the Basque word for flowers. And I think the film opens on a shot of flowers.
It does.
I think it does, yeah. And
Straight from
everybody, the first time we see most of the main characters, they're sort of weirdly contemplating.
Yeah.
On a bus looking out of a window.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the shots, but it was
Like
a
Doctor's office. And
yeah. I think we were something like 2.5 minutes in before we actually got any dialogue,
Yeah.
which was nice, I guess.
Yeah.
It was,
I thought it was. I thought the film was going to be completely different to what it actually was. Because the plot was about flowers and he just kind of didn't really say anything about it, but it was like 2.5 stars. I thought it was like a romantic, very safe kind of film, but it was quite, like the 2.5 minutes of silence, it was pretty
experimental.
Yeah. There was little bits of that in there, I thought.
Yeah, I noticed that. Where the first bit of dialogue we get when our main character, Anne, I think.
Yeah.
We call her Anne, anyway. When she gets told that she's entering the menopause,
Yeah.
my brain immediately ticked off, and I thought there's going to be some link here between flowers and the menopause and sort of fertility. And like flowering as a person and these sorts of things. So I mean, I don't think that prediction was very true. I think that was...
I thought maybe I missed it because obviously the language barrier does stop some of the understanding of the film a bit because they have to pay a lot of attention. But did menopause come up that much again? Like,
maybe at the end.
Because it happened. I thought, I guess it might be about her not having kids, something like that. And
yeah, that was
and
my
then,
thoughts.
then it never really came up again.
Yeah, I think the only possible way that could come up would be at the end, which we'll get to when we get towards the end. Which
I'll just spoil it straight away.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. So what other notes did I have? I mean, this is probably reading way too far into it, but the shot of Anne and her husband, where they're at the breakfast table. I think they're having breakfast.
Yeah.
So it must be morning, but there's a moment where the light is like flooding in on him, and she's in like shadow.
Yeah.
And I thought, is this going to be some sort of she is keeping secrets, which, I mean, is actually is the case.
Yeah.
But I thought she's not told him about the menopause and these sorts of issues.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of some sort of play on like innocence there, and something like that.
Yeah, because that's what I mean with like not particularly experimental, but a bit lower than surface level stuff was in there quite a bit, which I didn't expect before I was watching it. Yeah, sorry about that. Phone just rang, so we'll just get back into the review now.
All right, yeah. So another thing I put was Anne feels unimportant. There was a shot where she's on the bus going to work, I presume. She was. At the time, I didn't know her destination, but in the next scene, I discovered it. But she's sort of crammed in there, and initially I thought this is going to be some sort of, with the links to flowers and, like blooming as people and these sorts of things. I thought, is it going to be some sort of story where she's like feels down and unimportant, but she sort of finds a true calling or whatever?
Yeah.
Which I guess you could say is maybe the...
Yeah, because she found happens. Something in what happens, like she...
Yeah.
But I remember that shot, now you said it. I thought I really liked that shot when it happened now. I don't know. Something about it I just liked. Yeah. I like quite a lot of the aesthetic of the film, really. I thought it was really well shot.
Yeah, like, there was some interesting devices used.
The colours were quite... The colours. The colours the right word? I don't know, just like the tone of the everything around, I thought was quite nice to me.
It may be a bit dark for me.
That's why but I like, yeah.
I mean, I like dark, but for me it was a bit not dark, just maybe a bit dull.
Yeah, it was a bit... represented the mundane.
Yeah, I guess maybe, yeah.
Which,
her way of life was boring.
Yeah. You never know how much the director means and how much the viewer makes up, but it could have been that.
Yeah. So then what did I put next? Maybe skipping a bit forward here, I thought there was a very interesting shot where Anne is looking for the chain that she's lost.
Yeah.
And the camera is directly above them. And I put, we're looking at exactly the same angle she is to the ground. So she's looking straight down at the ground, and we're looking straight down on her, looking straight down at the ground. Which I thought was a good way of...
it was,
breaking up the rhythm of, not just medium close up, medium close up.
Yeah.
What else did I put? Then the story sort of took a turn for me here, where it's sort of broken up into sections. I wasn't expecting the sort of chapter-like structure.
Yeah.
Because initially, obviously, everything is from the perspective of Anne, and she's our main character. And then we sort of switch to Benyat.
Yeah, Bernardo,
who we sort of switched to his perspective.
Yeah.
And the first note I had about him was the scene at the dinner table with his mother and wife.
Yeah.
And I just noted that everybody at that table had different views. There was nobody at that table agreed about anything. There was there were not an argument, but there was disagreements about whether Mikhail, the Ward's son, Woodress son?
Yeah. RD is,
is actually considered a grandchild to Tear, the grandmother. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
There's a disconnect there between those two, and obviously a big rift between Wardez and Tear.
Yeah.
And there's just sort of that's a family dynamic that is not a family, really.
Yeah.
Completely opposing each other on things like cleaning apartments and sort of domestic life like that.
Yeah.
Really.
What did you think of, like, the story?
Yeah, so let's backtrack a bit here. So Anne is a woman in her maybe 40s?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Well, in the first scene, she's too young to be starting menopause, and she is, essentially.
Yeah. I'd say late 30s, 40s, something like that. Who randomly starts receiving bunches of flowers from a stranger.
Unknown source.
No, nothing. And, well, the story sort of moves on from there, and we get introduced to who we are meant to believe is sending the flowers.
Yeah.
Benya.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what did you think of that? Do you like Anne as a character at this point?
Yeah, I quite liked her as a character. It was kind of...
Yeah, I liked her. I felt I wanted her to get a win, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like things weren't going her way. And initially I thought, you know, you could do with a win.
Yeah, exactly. It was... Yeah, there was nothing... Yeah, I don't know. I liked her, but nothing particularly... I didn't feel any way about her, really.
Yeah,
it was just
a note that I would have here, maybe, that probably applies to the general film as a whole, was I liked Anne, but I felt no attachment to her, really.
Yeah.
No emotional investment in her as a character.
Yeah, she was pretty
Which is
detached.
something that I would level that at the whole film.
Yeah.
But we'll get on to general thoughts anyway. So then we move on to Benya and Lourdes. I don't know how you say that name. I'm sorry if we'll butcher it.
We'll just say that for the...
And what's Lourdes about as a character? What's her issue in the film? That was maybe a harsh question. So then we get a sort of split story between Benya and Lourdes.
Yeah.
Their family dynamic is not working. She doesn't like the mother-in-law.
Yeah, mother-in-law doesn't like her.
Yeah, and Benya is apparently the person... Yeah, he has a lot of flowers in his flat.
And it's suggested that...
Yeah, suggested that he's sending these flowers to Anne. Maybe poorly done there, I'd say. That was,
it was pretty...
Doesn't really establish that. And then Benya having an argument with his mother on the phone.
Yeah. Driving home
in the rain. Has a car crash.
Yeah.
And dies, apparently.
Yeah, but it doesn't really seem like he should die in that car. He kind of doesn't turn on quite a sloping corner.
Yeah,
and just I'd
say... I mean, I'd guess he was probably doing 55, something like that.
It's like, it didn't look fatal.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a total wreck. That car was not a write-off.
It's not an action film, but I was like, oh, it's going to be cut to him, like, waking up on his steering wheel kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, with, like, white noise going around. Not white noise, but his ears ringing, but it was just like, oh. Yeah. And then Anne sees that in the...
Annie's on a bus.
And she sees that. She doesn't know it's him at the time, though.
Yeah, she doesn't know Benya really at all.
Have we said that he works...
Maybe not.
But yeah, they know each other because he works for her.
Yeah, they have one conversation in a cabin where he tells her how to look after flowers. And she pays attention but doesn't really... I mean, she isn't to know that he's the secret flower sender.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really take much from it.
Yeah, no. He's more in depth, like he's more involved in the conversation than she is. She's just like, whatever.
Benya dies, but something that I found of note from him, something I found interesting about his character is earlier in the film, he goes to the cemetery with his mother to see his father's grave. But he won't get out of the car because I have it here somewhere.
Interlude.
Yeah. He says something. He says something to the effect of "dead people are dead," and that's it.
Yeah.
So he won't go and see his father's grave because he doesn't believe
in heaven or.
Yeah, he's just dead. He's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And his mother replies with, I think it was, people don't die until we forget them. Which is a rather soppy, sentimental line that I think becomes more prevalent at the end of the film.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
So Benyat dies and his body goes to...
like university
scientific research. Basically, he becomes a cadaver for medical students to practice procedures on.
Obviously going along with doesn't believe in heaven or anything, he just donate to science and
he's not got a sentimental investment in himself really. Which maybe contradicts the ending and him as a character. So he dies, and then we see a split between Lourdes and Benyat's family. They almost completely separate. Arguments. And one thing that I would note is when they're in the hospital and he has just died. I don't know if you remember, but his mother... they're in a corridor on opposite sides of a corridor. Yeah. And Lourdes does not react, really.
Yeah. She's on the wall, and his mum and is it his sister? Yeah, are like in tears with each other, and she's just
she's sort of cold. We feel at this point.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if you have any notes between this. Sort of the story moves along a bit. I don't think Lourdes even goes to the funeral. Maybe? We don't see that.
No, I can't remember.
And at this point, the flowers that Anna's been receiving and has come to expect, interestingly, stop.
Yeah, so it's...
And then a new man starts in Benyat's job, being up in a crane way up high. Yeah. He clears out his stuff from the cabin, little area control cockpit, and he finds Anne's chain.
Yeah, so obviously Benyat had...
Yeah, I mean, I would raise an issue here of how did he get that?
Well, she dropped it, didn't she?
Do we see her drop it?
No, but then she's looking for it.
I mean, a lot of things happen off camera here. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's a bit of a leap to me. We never see him actually have the chain while he's alive. We never see him pick him up. We never see her drop it. But somehow, this chain ends up in a crane 100 foot above the ground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing assumed basically he walks past... Well, we must know it's hers because he keeps it because it's hers. So he must... But if you just find it, how would he know that it's hers? I don't know. I didn't think of that until now. Really.
There's an issue there somewhere in that plot. So then, where did I get to? We find the chain. The flowers in Anne's office die, like Benyat does. Some lovely imagery here. Other imagery at that point. Lourdes wants to be alone. She ignores Benyat's family, says leave her alone, like she is her job is working on a toll road in a cabin. Yeah. And her sort of life, the way she wants it to be, is she wants to be alone and separated, like she is in the cabin.
So many layers to this.
Yeah, it's...
honestly, this is the point in the film where I would lose interest, and it was like gradual. I was like
probably 20 minutes in.
I was yeah. It was a lot of nothing.
Yeah, we enter a real grey bland patch. Yeah, he's like that.
I mean, the flowers dying was the action part of the film, really.
Yeah, one thing that I don't know, I can't remember where it comes, but there is a nice shot where the flowers, we show the passage of time through the flowers.
Yeah, I did like that.
The flowers are changing with every shot.
Yeah, I did like that.
And then the second half of the film, it takes this weird half espionage story.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, a bigger theme at that point, I say, is the idea that people don't die until they forget them.
Yeah.
Where Lourdes wants to forget and wants to be alone.
Yeah.
And we see Anne sort of picking up the torch.
Yeah.
She goes to the site of the crash, leaves flowers every week.
Blah, blah,
There's
blah.
this mystery of who is leaving these flowers because it is not Lourdes.
Yeah, so the role. And then Lourdes wants to find out.
Yeah, so she ends up waiting in a car by the side of the road.
Yeah, it's just like...
and then something else that I put here is Anne's husband, Ander, who there is tension between them that comes sporadically throughout the film. I mean, how does he not notice that she is weaving flowers every week?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, purely from a financial standpoint, if we say, yeah, I mean, this is no holds barred here. I mean, it's not bouquets, but the flowers that Anne weaves look nicer than the ones Benyat's family weave.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna say that's maybe what 15, 20 euros every week, that's like €80 a month that is coming out of Ander and Anne's joint bank account, I presume. Yeah. And he never raises that question of where are you going and why are we paying a florist every week? Which might happen off camera, but I'll not give it that credit.
One thing I thought about their relationship as well was the arguing was just kind of like normal arguments rather than like...
there's no weight to that argument.
It wasn't like, they're clearly going through a lot of turmoil here. It was like a bit of bickering, really. And it was like it didn't come across as weighty as I think it was supposed to be. Yeah,
I mean, I did notice that every time we see him, he's watching the TV. And as soon as I saw him watching the TV, I thought, I bet you every time we see Ander, he's watching the TV, which I didn't write down, but I thought...
Yeah, we can all say that.
This is... All right, then don't do that one. What else have we put? €80 a month. At this point, I put nice chimey soundtrack.
I didn't even notice the soundtrack. I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, at some points I noticed it more than others. Most of the time, I wasn't. But I thought there were some nice little chimey bits, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess really the sign of a good soundtrack is, or a mediocre, average soundtrack is, if you just don't notice it.
Yeah.
Unless it's particularly bad.
Yeah.
Who cares? And then we get a weird scene where Anne and Lourdes end up in the same car together.
Yeah.
Anne is hitchhiking.
Yeah.
Weirdly, for some reason.
No, yeah. Because she's in the car, and she goes through the tunnel, doesn't she, where Lourdes is working at one point.
They previously have a close encounter without ever actually seeing each other.
And then it somehow seems like then she's hit. Is that the same journey, or is that?
I presume so, because we don't see she was with someone on a motorway at any other point.
That when I saw that, I was like, I thought I'd missed something. I was like, I thought because she knew the person she was in the car with.
Yeah, Anne gets in the car. Lourdes pretends to be somebody else to find out this story of how Anne knew Benyat, because at this point she suspects they were having an affair, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a very... I mean, cagey scene. It's completely unconvincing where she's making up this story about how her husband died. And I mean, she keeps asking Anne these weird questions about how she got these flowers and how she knows it was this person who's died that we obviously know is Benyat, but they're trying to sever that link. And I mean, the questioning, the series of questions that goes is just so. I mean, if that happened in real life, you would turn to the person asking the questions and say, "Well, what's going on?"
Yeah, you obviously know something about this.
There's obviously something wrong here. And then they hit a sheep while Anne is trying to get out of the car because she realises
who it is.
She realises there's something not right here.
Up. Then the sheep gets up.
Yeah,
the sheep. That doesn't really mean anything. It's just like,
I mean, maybe I'm at this point in the film sort of struggling to make sense, really.
I know.
So the sheep lives miraculously. I mean, she was speeding in that car.
Yeah.
If we say she was doing, the limit was, 40 mile an hour, something like that?
I don't know.
She was speeding. She must have been doing about 50. She hit a sheep at 50 mile an hour, and the thing trots off.
I mean, it runs off. It's not like it hobbles off. It's like
yeah. I mean, this is.
It's blasphemy.
I mean, at first I thought maybe there's a link there between Benyat and, because when he dies, we see a sheep running down the road.
Yeah, I mean.
So I thought, is there something going on there? Is there? Maybe. And I just lost hope with it, really.
It was kind of. Yeah. There probably was, but it wasn't clear.
And then we sort of move forward to. Lourdes gets the ashes of Benyat after some fairly. I didn't enjoy the scenes of Benyat's body.
I know, yeah.
I thought it was completely irrelevant and just. I mean, is that really how they keep bodies in Spain? Just stick them in a bag and
I don't know,
a loose knot at the end? Why? At that point I was slightly concerned because I thought his body is supposed to stay there for 4 or 5 years at this point.
Yeah. And it's just like,
and you're just going to let that air.
It seems pretty warm in there.
Well, I mean, they're keeping it cool to preserve him. Some fairly not even bloody or grisly, but just unpleasant scenes it was just of nothing. His
dead body being carted around, pretty much.
Yeah. Then we sort of jump forward a bit in time to where Benyat's mother-in-law, Ter, I don't know exactly how you say that, has, I'm presuming, dementia.
Yeah.
And cannot...
Yeah. Or Alzheimer's or something.
Yeah, some sort of mental... I mean, to me it looked like dementia. So Lourdes gets Benyat's ashes and takes them to Ter's house.
Yeah.
To give them to her. And she's then met with Ter, who has fairly severe dementia or Alzheimer's, something like that. The long and the short of it is she cannot remember Benyat or what happened to him.
Ba, ba, ba.
Which, for me,
links
was
back
probably...
to the... You're not dead unless...
Exactly. We're on the same wavelength here. So...
it was a big sigh.
I mean, I quite enjoyed that scene. When she cannot remember Benyat, that for me was the only scene with any emotional power to it.
I didn't mind it, but because I knew they were pushing the point so much, I was just like...
Yeah, I mean, I did have that moment of realisation where, oh my god, there's a switch there. Because Ter, who wanted to remember Benyat and keep him from dying, as she implies, and Lourdes wants to forget him, they then switch roles completely, where Ter has forgotten him, not by her own choice, obviously, but through circumstances of life, has forgotten him, and Lourdes then is burdened with keeping Benyat alive in memory, I guess. I mean, she's also burdened with his actions.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, I there's a bit of a twist at the end. And at this point, I put twist at the end, Jesus. So here, I thought there was an interesting thing where, in that scene, Lourdes reacts. What did you think about her reaction?
What, to finding out?
To discovering that Tere's forgotten Benyat.
I don't know. I don't think I'll...
Because I thought she reacted like somebody whose spouse had just died.
Oh, right, okay.
Which I thought was interesting because when he dies, she doesn't react. But when he is forgotten, she reacts like he's just died. I thought it was an interesting switch.
I didn't pick that up.
But Lourdes wants to forget. I mean, we get a very bizarre scene with Anne and Lourdes at the end, where Lourdes tries to give Anne Benyat's ashes, and then we get the massive twist that Anne doesn't actually know if it was Benyat sending all the flowers.
Yeah.
And I think she shrugs this off by saying that she was going through a dark time.
Yeah, it's just like...
Which is... Oh, Jesus. Like, that is such a weak...
It was poor.
Anemic ending. I mean, and there's no reaction to that.
Yeah, it's like... What?
It is shrugged off with...
Yeah.
Nothing.
But...
Which...
If I'm like that... That sums up the film for me, really. I mean, we're talking through it then, a lot just happened, but it felt like nothing was happening for
After
the entire
first
time.
40 minutes, this film was dead in the water.
It was. If that was made for TV, like if that movie was made for TV, I wouldn't have been surprised. For like, I don't know, 4 p.m. showing. The story reminded me of like, if you go to a supermarket and you see like the novels there that look like really generic, like made for
Catherine Cook
40 plus women.
Yeah,
it was that.
Yeah, but without any emotional.
Yeah,
it was that, but like sterile.
Yeah, it was like there was no dramatic point. I mean, when he died, it was like, he's dead. Like it didn't look like it wasn't a big thing when he died. It was like, he crashed his car. Didn't look that fast.
I mean, he didn't even die in like spectacular.
No,
it wasn't. He is definitely dead.
Yeah,
moment.
I mean, and I don't know if it was. I guess it was the writer, or I don't know, or the director that was linking all these bits together, like the sheep and stuff like that. But it was so plainly done that it had no effect.
Yeah,
it wasn't like,
It
was like, oh yeah. That was obvious. That was So it wasn't like hidden nuggets. It was just plain sight. Like
Do you have any other thoughts? Anything I didn't mention?
Nothing about certain scenes, but to me the film. I thought when I saw 2 stars, I thought there's going to be bad acting, and it's going to be poor.
The acting wasn't that bad.
It was fine. I thought the acting was fine. Like I was saying, the shots were quite nice.
Yeah, at the beginning they were interesting.
The story was just weak.
Yeah.
That was it really. But when it first started, I was like, this is 2 stars. Looks like it could be alright. This.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, I was like, Jesus Christ, what is this gonna end? I mean, because I said nothing happens, and I quite certain films where not a lot of stuff happens, and it's about the mundane in between stuff. Something like Prince Avalanche, which is quite a good film with Paul Rudd in it, where he's a road painter. And it's about the in between as much as when something happens. But this was just when something happens, it was just as interesting as the mundane stuff. It was just like,
it never really built any pace.
No,
there was never a climax.
I
mean, the peak of the film was probably 40 minutes in, something like that.
Yeah.
After that, it was.
I didn't really invest in any of the characters either. I wasn't that bothered.
I mean, none of them were horrible.
No, the Benaz's mother was supposed to be the horrible one, kind of.
Yeah.
And I didn't like her, but I wasn't like. I wasn't on what's she called,
Lourdes.
Yeah, I wasn't on her. I wasn't like, oh, rooting for her because she was so horrible to her. Just kind of like, oh yeah, she's not very nice to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, it was quite a nice aesthetic film, but there was no story for me, and it was middle of the road, and like I said, up to 40 minutes, I was all right, and then I was just bored by the end. I was like, okay, is this gonna end now? Yeah. I've not got much else on the film.
Alright, should we do rate the ratings?
Let's rate the rating.
Rate the ratings, the section where we rate not the film, but the rating given on Netflix. So,
yes, we do.
To clarify here, we are not giving the film.
This is not what we're rating the film.
We are reviewing the consensus review of Netflix users.
Yeah. So this film got 2 out of 5 stars. We're essentially rating how much we think that film deserves.
Yeah, how accurate is that?
Yeah.
2 stars.
So
I give it a 9 out of 10 for accuracy. Yeah, I thought it was an accurate rating. I mean, there was a good start. Well, I wouldn't. I struggled to say good. I mean, it wasn't the worst start in the world. But I just put film isn't horrible. It's just bland and lacks emotional depth. And
take down.
That is my 1 sentence review. And rate the ratings.
I would rate it 8 out of 10. I'd give that. I thought the beginning was alright, like you said, but by the end I wasn't annoyed, but I was so ready for it to finish that
I was begging for
I forgot the intro. It kind of didn't matter that the intro was alright.
Yeah.
So if I was 8 out of 10.
Right.
I would have gone.
That's rated the ratings.
That's rated rating. Right, we're gonna get onto the lottery now. This is our first ever live lottery. So last week we did one to pick Loreak, but now we're going to do a live lottery to pick a film we're going to watch next week. It's the first one, so we're going to go through it while we're doing it to give a quick explanation of what we're doing. And let's just get straight into it. Right, so first up we're going to pick the rating. So we've got 3 ratings. It's 3 and below, 4 and 5. So we're going to pick these out of a hat. Let's see what we get.
James is picking first.
So last week it was below 3, so I'm hoping for a hefty 5 right now. 5. Right. Thank you. Right, so just to be clear, picked a 5 out of hat. The film that we will watch will be 5 stars. So it could be worth watching this week. Right, so next up we have genres. What?
Well, we're never going to list off those genres now.
Wait. I'll put them into the hat prematurely. I'll pick them back out.
You've blown your one there early.
Shot the barrel there. Right. So the genres that we can pick are comedy, thriller, gay and lesbian. I wonder if there's a 5-star gay and lesbian. Action adventure, romance, cult, crime, musicals. That's crime and musicals, not a subgenre of crime musicals. Dramas, independent films, world cinema, sci-fi, British, and sports.
Yeah, we excluded horror because horror's just rubbish, isn't it?
I know. There's just not going to be many 5 stars on there.
I mean, the horror film scene at the moment is so poor. I mean, the quality is so low.
The last good one I saw, I thought The Conjuring was good.
I've only ever seen one horror film in the cinema, and that was the first Paranormal Activity. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it.
I've seen it, it's quite good. I've seen most of them, and The last one I saw was The Boy, which
oh god, yeah.
the villain looks like Dwight Schrute's cousin Mose. Right. Oh, so Dan's gonna pick the category out of a hat.
All right.
So 5-star of this genre.
Sports.
Ooh.
A 5-star sports film. Not many around.
might be as big as something else. Documentaries might be, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a sports documentary,
I reckon.
probably.
Yeah, rather than American football. prison themed.
I mean, there is going to be overlap between genres.
Yeah.
So, but we're doing it loosely.
Yeah. Right, so there we go. 5-star sports film. So what we do now, we go on to, it's a Netflix database website. We both pick 2 films each that are 5-star and sport. But we don't show each other what films we've picked. So there'll be 4 films. We'll put them into the hat, and then we'll do another draw. So we're just going to do that now. We'll cut back once we've picked the films. Right, so it was fairly limited range there. There was no 5-star films in the sports genre, but we just picked films that are 4-star and above.
Yeah, which there were few of.
Which there's few of, so there's pretty limited range. So 4 films in the hat. I'm going to pick them out now. Let's see what we're watching next week. Big moment. Maiden Trip? Is it? This is Dan's pick.
This is the 4-star rated film about a 14-year-old girl who sails around the world or something.
Oh, right, okay. A documentary or
yeah,
film?
I think it's documentary film really. So yeah, I've no idea.
I mean, lucky thing about this is that most things that are 4-star and above have to be pretty good. Like nothing's terrible. So we can have a look at what we could have had.
Look. Note to Self, which was my other pick, which looked like some sort of rather awful basketball film, which I think was actually a film, not a documentary.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the list. Didn't look great.
Stop at Nothing, which was your pick.
Yeah, that one is the Lance Armstrong documentary, kind of going into his like the drug stuff rather than how good he was. It's more about
And your other pick was Beyond the Edge.
That was a film. So that film is an actual film about a 1953 trek up Everest. So I thought it could have been quite good. But yeah, so that's what we're watching next week. We're watching Maiden Trip. So the point we like to do this the week before. So we pick the film a week before, so people that are listening can watch the film. Yeah. And then, comment or whatever about.
Yeah.
So
emails,
Twitter, emails, Twitter, all the links will be there. So yeah, Maiden Trip. It's gonna be a banger. Jesus Christ. Right, so now we're going to go into the chill section of the podcast. Just start off, if you've got any news.
I was almost witness to a violent crime yesterday.
Fantastic.
I found myself in the library in town.
Yeah. You setting the scene?
Yeah, setting the scene. And I was in there killing a bit of time because I had to be somewhere at a certain time. And just sat down, minding my own business. And then I'm not sure how this happened because these people didn't run into the library. I was sat deep in the library, as it were. So these people were in the library before me and had gone past me before this started. So I've no idea what these people were doing in the library before this incident occurred.
Wanking in the corner.
I've seen a few. So I'm sat there, and then all of a sudden, in front of me, a man and a woman, maybe in the 30s. Yeah, I'd say they were solidly in the 30s. Sort of start having this argument.
I thought I was going to go somewhere else.
No, this is not the public section on Pornhub or whatever. Jesus Christ. So anyway, the woman... Jesus Christ. Anyway, we're freeballing. So the woman starts raising her voice to draw attention to herself, as does the man in a far angrier tone. And the woman begins to sort of run, come, skip away from this guy.
Okay.
And he then starts... he's mumbling the whole time, and she says things like, "Leave me alone," insert name, who I won't name.
You shall not be named.
And calling him a weirdo. And this guy, as he comes closer, I can hear him, and he's saying things like, "You shouldn't be sleeping at another man's house."
Oh.
And obviously swearing the whole time, and things like this.
In the library.
And then she says, "We're in a library." Like, obviously trying to stop him by shaming him in public. This guy was having none of it. Yeah. He goes, "I don't care. I'll kick your fucking head in."
Oh, Jesus Christ!
And she's half like laughing. You know, like when the fear takes hold, and all you can do is sort of laugh out of nerves. So she's sort of skipping away. And he's
I don't know
saying,
if I'm picturing the right sort of skip. I'm picturing
she's sort of like hop, skip, and jump. You know, she's like taking longer strides than she would.
Yeah.
And he's just, kick your head in. Don't give a shit.
Jesus Christ.
You should be sleeping at another man's house and all this sort of thing. So I've no idea what was happening, what they were doing in the library before this erupted, or what happened for this to erupt, because they were well into the library. It wasn't like if she ran in and was like running for her life, and then I would be like, well, obviously this makes sense. But why they
were Dickens session?
Why they were browsing the fucking home gardening section and then decided to have a domestic? I don't know.
By the way, I said it Phil's last night.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So and then one of the women that was working at the library sort of started walking towards them, and they were heading for the door anyway. Thankfully,
she claimed the glory. She's like, I sorted them out. Yeah.
So they were sort of going off to the door. I don't know whether they ran out or what happened, but sort of went quiet, and people were looking around awkwardly.
Jeez.
And I mean, luckily I've never had to get involved in a situation like that. I mean, those sorts of things happen every once in a while. But I've never actually had to get involved in a situation like that.
No.
And I was glad to at the time, because I was not thinking about stepping in and being the hero. I was thinking about something that I had to do.
Yeah.
So that was just my bit of news from yesterday.
Well, Jesus. Well, mine's a lighter note.
Yeah.
Mine's just about an event I went to. Well, event. Yeah, I guess it was called a festival, but it wasn't. It was just like a full day thing. And it was at this place in Charlton called the Odd Bar. I think there's a few different odd bars in Manchester. I don't know if it's a chain or just like a Manchester. Like they've got a few.
Do they serve food?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a chain in Manchester.
It's a bit of a slightly gentrified kind of thing. In the whole Charlton area, it's quite a bit. But it was like a hip hop day festival type thing, a little acts on. And I know someone's brother that was playing there, and so I went down. It was like just a really really good like acts on all day. For those who don't know, that's a guy called DJ Peanuts. For if you like you're into like hip hop DJ, and he's like quite a big name in the UK, so I thought I would mention it rather than just my mate's brother who's just got this USB. But yeah, really good, a lot of good acts. Met some good people, and there's also a barbecue.
Oh,
At first, it was advertised to me as a free barbecue, and it was not. And it was not. So I was like digging in. Excuse me,
knife and fork ready.
Yeah. But I must have been a different company that did the food because they were like slightly outside. But I had something called a Holy Cow burger, and Jesus, and it was just classic. It was just a bit of beef, bit of beef, bit of cheese, bit of bacon, slight bit of dressing.
That's the true test of any burger.
It was good, and then on the side it was rice and couscous, just to add the gentrification into the.
Can we get any more street food? Street food anymore?
Yeah. But it was just really good. So I don't know if they do any more events, but the Odd Bar, really good place. Yeah, I also dropped a pint of beer on the floor. Well, it was half a pint of beer. It was later on in the night.
Even then, don't waste that sweet nectar.
Well, yeah, that's my news update or whatever. So we may as well get into the topic. So each week we're going to discuss a different topic. If you got anything that you want us to discuss, talk about, that you'd like to hear our thoughts on, just email or Twitter or YouTube comment.
I mean, this week is maybe quite a serious topic, but I think anything it's not. We're
going to find a light side to most things as well. Anyway, so it's not. But anything you want, it can be, as comical or whatever as you want. So,
yep.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start? Or
you start.
So basically, what we talk about today is the American election. It's coming up. It's been dragged out for the past however long. I mean, I thought years. The UK one was bad, but obviously, it's Trump and Clinton, the front runners.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of Americans, it seems like who do you want to keep out? Pretty much.
Yeah,
no one really wants Clinton or.
I think these are probably the two most hated candidates.
Yeah.
In history, maybe.
Think about it then. People who want Trump in love Trump. People who want Clinton in don't really. They just don't want Trump in, don't they? Or,
yeah.
I mean, must be people who like Clinton a lot, but I think if you're voting for Trump, you've got to really. I think they must be really standing for what he says or believes in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he believes what he says or he's just saying it because he's going to get a reaction. But one thing I noticed about the whole election, which from being in the UK, is just kind of mental for me, is how much show there is to the events and
beauty pageant, isn't it?
Like Katy Perry singing at the Democratic one, and I mean, I don't think they could get anyone to play for Trump's thing, but there was some sort of house band playing David Bowie covers.
Yeah.
But then stuff like when Donald Trump, it was early on in the campaign, but he SNL have hosts, don't they? And he hosted it while running for president. No one. Obviously, it's a completely different place, America, but there's not that crossover in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, probably the closest thing to that was maybe Jeremy Corbyn going on that Last Leg programme.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, even then, it wasn't that big.
Yeah.
I didn't know until it happened.
Yeah. And it wasn't it was never going to be a comedic, that comedic, was it? I didn't see it, but it's Corbyn, so. But yeah, what any thoughts you've got on?
Well, in my notes, I took a much more serious.
I've got more to say. Don't worry about
sort of breakdown of this. Yeah, I mean, obviously the pageantry is just it's sort of alien to us over here. I mean, our political system and parties and that sort of thing is an embarrassment, really.
Yeah, it's different, but it's just as bad.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the main problem for somebody like Hillary Clinton is that not just her, but the world, America, underestimated Trump from the beginning. And I think Hillary as maybe I should just call her Clinton, because I don't like calling people Hillary. And, if I call,
do you know what I mean,
I don't call Donald Trump Donald.
Yeah, well, it's because it is Bill Clinton. But,
yeah.
Well.
But I think one of the the issues for her is that everybody has known that she wants to be president, and obviously has run before. Obviously was defeated by Barack Obama.
Yeah, it was. For the same party, wasn't he?
Yeah. But everybody knows her game, and everybody knew that eventually she would probably get nominated after Obama. And that has gone to not only her head, but the whole Democrat Party. And they assumed they already had this won, which sadly is not the case.
I know, yeah. Jesus Christ. I think, well, like you were saying, most people didn't think he would be Republican candidate, and then, it's getting bigger and bigger. So...
Yeah, I mean, the problem is now it's difficult to stop. As you probably know, the study of power and politics and this sort of thing, and strategy, is sort of an interest of mine.
Yeah.
And the problem is that Trump has built a head of steam, and now with Hillary, assuming that she had this won, and that Trump wouldn't become the candidate for the Republicans, now she's making up lost ground. To me, it feels like instead of starting a football match at 0-0, it's like everybody let Trump score a few goals.
Yeah.
And now everyone's thinking, Christ, we need to stop this guy. You know what I mean? There was too much dicking around at the beginning. I mean, not only she, but everybody has underestimated him and the power of money, obviously. I mean, this is... who do you think is going to win the election?
But like everyone else, for the longest time, I've always just thought, you won't get in. But I just kind of think that...
Which I'll get onto that in a minute.
I think Clinton will just get in.
I think the problem for us judging this is that in Britain, there are certain factors going into any election. So things like the trade unions, Rupert Murdoch, they hold a certain amount of influence. But for us in Britain, it is difficult to gauge the impact things like Wall Street have.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether the influence of Wall Street is going to put Clinton over the line. Or whether, how big a factor that is. Because I'd love to say I think Wall Street and the corporations and Goldman Sachs and all this sort of stuff is just going to power Hillary Clinton over the line. But I don't know that will happen. So I'm hesitant to say that I think Clinton will win, because I don't know how big those afterburners are going to be in her campaign.
Yeah. It's like you said before, they are just scrambling now, and I think they've gone for quite a bad approach. Like their approach now is, I'm qualified for the job. That from looking at seeing I don't know what it's called, the big event thing.
Oh, the conference.
Yeah, it was like Barack Obama, Bill Clinton saying she is the most qualified person for the job. No, obviously that is a big factor of that, but you don't win anyone over really saying I'm qualified for the job. You've got to prove. Trump's winning people over by saying, or he's being charismatic and whatever, and saying I'm going to do this, and this, and then she's just saying, no, I'll do it. I'll get the job done. I'm good for it. You know what I mean? It's like you're not selling yourself there, and obviously it's clearly just selling yourself, and she's not doing very. She's not. I don't know. Like compared to like Bill Clinton, she's not got that charm or.
Yeah, she's. I'd say this is probably like the perfect storm for anybody but Hillary Clinton, because Barack Obama is one of the best speakers in recent times. He grips people and speaks very well. Bill Clinton, obviously, is really one of the most charismatic presidents ever.
Yeah.
Even with all his history, people still like him.
Yeah.
And even Trump, I'd say, is a better speaker than Clinton. even though what Trump says is stupid and he doesn't make sense, he shows that passion and like will to act upon his words. But Clinton doesn't, and that's not her own fault. Not every politician is a great speaker, and you don't need to be a great speaker to be a good politician or a good leader. But the problem is, looking back, she doesn't match up. Yeah. And against a competition now, she doesn't match up.
And that's what everyone's judging on at the moment, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other thing as well is that the history of the candidates is so against Hillary Clinton. Like, as a politician, she has a reputation for lying. And that's, as every politician does, it's difficult to find one that actually, so few of them actually do what they say they're going to do because they can't, and they know it.
Yeah.
But Trump doesn't have that record. And I'm surprised, really, that Trump hasn't said more that he's not a politician.
Yeah, it could have been quite good.
For me, I would have said, I'm not a politician, I'm not a liar, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. Which I think they have said, but not that way.
That's not been the front of the...
And one of the other issues is that one of the main things to do in any sort of competition, election, is you've got to control the narrative as it is. But it's so... The way I see it, Trump is controlling the narrative. Because So Trump's issues are things like extremists, Muslims. These are things that Trump talks about.
Yeah.
So what happens is, every time there's a new terror attack in America or around the world, Trump can refocus any debate onto that and push his own agenda. But as far as I'm aware, Clinton does not have, or I've never seen her speak about this issue so as plainly as Trump does.
Yeah.
So you can't get your message across if, everything that's going on outside the campaign is being dragged in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you get things like a private life coming in, this email debacle.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump can control what is discussed, which is bad.
Yeah. I saw him on the news today, and do you see? So is that the two parents of a Muslim American soldier that got killed spoke at the Democratic thing, didn't they? Do you see what Trump said about the wife?
Yeah, he implied that she wasn't allowed to speak.
Yeah, he was like, but he was like, but a lot of people have said that. That's not just me. I don't know. And they was like, but he said, but could she speak? That's not me saying that. So he's like, just say it if you can.
Yeah. I mean, what should I put? The other problem is that I'm reading a book about winning at the moment and strategy and things like that. So this is particularly relevant. But one of the most important things in any election to do is you have to identify the core issue of what is happening at that time. So if you look at the EU referendum here, the reason the Leave campaign were so effective and they plugged that slogan of take back control everywhere. I mean, I watched TV debates and they were in arenas, these sorts of places, and every time one of the Leave campaigners couldn't think of something to say, they said this is about taking back control of our borders and our laws. And people in the audience were groaning, audibly groaning as on a mass, because they know that that's just a slogan and it's an excuse.
Doesn't mean
but that those people in that audience know that that's the issue. It's the people at home who aren't that politically engaged. They hear
that
take back
go,
control and we're not in control, and they think, well, that's what we've got to do because we have to feel like we're in control. So if you look at America, obviously there's a running theme really globally of nationalisation. If you look at France, I would suspect that Hollande will get voted out and Le Pen will be voted in. I mean, all these countries are voting more right-wing politics. And the issue for us, obviously, in the EU campaign was control and immigration and fears about this sort of thing. And it's much the same in America. The Americans, at the moment, as a whole, are feeling a loss of identity and, you know, tradition and their own values and the good old days. I mean, the good old days in America. Like,
Make America great again.
Yeah, which is why that slogan is so effective, because the issue for people in America, your Joe Public or whatever, is a concern about terrorism, immigration.
Yeah.
And a general feeling that America isn't where it should be. And that is what Trump plays on. That is his core message. And every speech he does is make America great again, we're going to ban the Muslims, we're going to build a wall, like all this nonsense. But the problem for Clinton is that she doesn't have that clear message. It's muddled in this whole, feminist thing and a woman should be in power and this sort of thing. And, you know, her message is so muddled. And, you know, in the end it's resorted to, well, just vote for me to keep Trump out.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not... You'll never get elected like that.
Yeah.
It's just not feasible.
Yeah.
To me.
Because people don't know what they're voting for apart from... At least Trump is saying, I'll do this, and Clinton's saying, well, you don't really know what she's saying. Yeah,
I mean, I don't actually know any of Clinton's policies or what she has said she'll do. But every time you hear Trump speak, he says what he's going to do. And people... On a base level, people respect people who stick to the values, even if they disagree. If you look at somebody like Nigel Farage, I mean, I've had conversations with people and they say, well, I don't like Farage's politics, but I like him as a man. to which I can only respond like, oh, what's that? Like,
because he had a picture with a pint in his hand.
Yeah, they identify maybe more with him. But Trump... as you know, he's seen to be sticking to his values and what he's going to do, and people respect that even if they don't agree. So people respect Trump more than they do Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, well, it's similar to like what's happening in England. People don't know what the Labour Party stand for anymore, really. Yeah, and it's just like, well, I know what the Tory Party stand for. I know what UKIP stand for. Kind of thing, so it's like that. And one thing that I wanted to bring up was, because I was listening to a podcast last night actually, and they were talking about Clinton specifically, because one of the guys had interviewed her, and he was saying, you know, she like, because comparing her and Bernie Sanders, because obviously there's that big conflict within the party about, and I saw something where people were saying, oh, I'm not going to vote for Hillary because I wanted Bernie in.
Oh yeah, the Bernie or bust.
Yeah, but then it's like, ooh, that's another issue on its own. But if you don't get why you'd vote for Clinton, then at that point, then I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that she's like, a lot of people don't like her, and I mean, I don't know if I'd vote for her, given the choice of Sanders. I'd vote for Sanders.
Yeah, I'd vote for Sanders, but in this situation, I mean, it's pretty obvious you have to vote for it if you support the Democratic Party.
I mean, that as well. That point goes into something else I wanted to say. There's such a lazy response to Donald Trump. I mean, it's so... You can say, well, I don't like him and I don't agree with his politics, but that doesn't stop him. So let me give you an example. So the other night I watched on TV, there was a programme on Clinton, an hour long, and then right after a programme on Trump. And I watched the Hillary Clinton one, and I started watching the Donald Trump one, and my sister walked into the room and she said, why are you watching Donald Trump? And I said, well, why not? I mean, I know why I was watching it, but she said, he's just a racist. And I know that, but the point that I'd really like to drive home is that you cannot. People aren't defeated by just disregarding
them. Yeah.
I mean, for me, on political matters like this, we're not just disagreeing about things. Things like stopping Trump, it should be treated as like a war at this point. When on issues like this, I think, how are we going to defeat them? And you cannot achieve victory over anything if you do not understand what you're fighting against. You know what I mean? So things like the Conservative Party here. I watch documentaries about the Conservative Party, even though I despise them, because you have to understand how they work.
Yeah.
And for me, too many people have just looked at Donald Trump. Like at the beginning, people say, "Oh, you never get to be the nomination."
Yeah.
And I, as well, was probably part of this early on. But this like, oh, he's just a racist. But that doesn't stop him. You know, you've got to defeat him in one way or another.
Yeah.
And there's been two ways your response to thingy, and people don't want to watch him on TV. Like, watch his speeches, because you have to understand what you're fighting against.
Yeah, I think another reason why people underestimated him was because a lot of people get the news, I think, or especially in the UK, people underestimated, because they get their news on him like through the internet, and the face of the internet is, I don't know, 15 to 30-year-olds or whatever it is, who are more likely, talking about Trump, so commenting. They're more likely coming from a left standpoint or, Democrat. And people underestimate how popular he is in America, I think, with the people rather than... If you look online, it's all anti-Trump. But obviously he's got a lot of supporters.
Yeah.
So it's just, people underestimate from the way they get the news, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Because... another point I talking about the internet, actually, was that... Because in that podcast I was talking about, so they said that Clinton did a lot for civil rights in the civil rights movement, and something in South Dakota, something like that, because black boys were being put in prison with like fully grown men and stuff like that, and she somehow, because she used to be in legal, didn't she, before she was a politician?
Maybe, I'm not
too
sure.
But anyway, because I was like, I didn't know that, and when Bernie Sanders was trying to become like the head of the Democratic Party, I saw something online and it said Bernie Sanders worked hard for the civil rights movement. Hillary Clinton signed something to be against civil rights, which clearly wasn't true.
Yeah.
So the internet is obviously, I think as soon as you give someone, as soon as you tell someone a different opinion, they believe it straight away. It's like similar things like conspiracy theories. If you with like 9/11, I mean, no one knows what's true and what's not. But so the news says it was a plane and it got hijacked. Someone says it's the government, no, but they don't back it up either. But you believe the anti kind of thing. So I think people disregarding Hillary Clinton, they just think, oh, Bernie was well better, he was all for the civil rights, but to actually know what she was about. And because she's not, like, Bernie Sanders was quite attractive character to a lot of people, because for me, in my world, he was working with a lot of musicians. People are like, oh yeah, he's working with these bands that I like. Hillary Clinton doesn't really do that.
Yeah.
And it's just quite easy to disregard her politics. And I think that's what's the problem in the UK as well. People care about Jeremy Corbyn not wearing a nice suit, but they don't really care about his politics.
Yeah, well, I couldn't give a shit what he wears.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean, it's cheap politics, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let me just scroll through and see if I've got any other points.
Quite a length on this one, eh? So.
Yeah, I mean, we did originally aim for this to be something like an hour. We might be hour and 15.
Hour 15, well, not too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah, I mean, I just think it follows a trend globally of people moving towards the right.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the response of the internet should Trump get voted in.
But do you remember when Cameron got voted in? There was some riots, like the second time he got voted in London. There was some not riots, but there was like protests and some stuff got vandalised. Do you think in America that would happen?
I think in some areas, but not enough to. Yeah. Not enough to actually change anything.
I suppose America's so big that you can't focus it on a certain place. In England, you focus it on London, and that's what England is revolved around.
Yeah.
London. But in America, I suppose, it's so big and so spread out, you can't exactly focus an entire, I don't know, anti-Trump movement. Like, it's not going to do anything, is it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the topic for this week. So like we said, email us, message us if you want us to talk about anything. Hopefully we enjoyed it. This was maybe a bit serious and a bit political, but it's the first one, so next week we'll probably try and put something more light-hearted, or if we get a suggestion we'll talk about whatever you suggest. Yep. Alright, okay, so that's all from us this week. Just last thing actually, so we talk about the Twitter, in case you've not got the links there, at andchillpod on Twitter and andchillpod@gmail.com if you want to email us. And yeah, see you next week. Watch Maiden Trip. We will. Alright, see you later.